Hello, everybody. How's it going? We're going to get started here in a moment, so just hang tight. I see that Kelsey is here, which is great.
Yes, I'm super excited to be here. It's like finally here. I remember Megan talking to me about this opportunity like months ago, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're in September and we're doing it today. It's so cool.
Yes, it everything on our end is going super, super fast too. Like I can't believe it's already, I think, second week, third week of
Yeah,
school.
second week of September. Yeah, that's crazy. I know. And it's like I'm not in college anymore, so when I see online college,
All right. Well, hello everybody, and welcome for joining us today. This is Career Development's first online session of the semester. And we have Kelsey from Adobe here, and they're going to be talking about from TikTok to Adobe. So with that in mind, no further ado, I will turn it over to you, Kelsey. Oh, I think you're on mute.
there we go. Okay. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was muted. Yeah. I'm super, super excited to be here today. Like I was telling Josh, like this, I got talked to about doing this months ago. So it's like finally here. Super excited to talk to you guys. I'm going to talk about just my journey with social media, my background in design, and how that eventually led to me working for Adobe and kind of the story behind that. I like to keep these sessions kind of more interactive, not just me lecturing you about how you should get on social media to use it for your career. So at the end of this, definitely feel free to ask questions. No question is dumb. I like to have the interaction and kind of answer any questions about how to get on social media, how to get started, how it wraps into your career, and different things like that. So a little bit about me, so I'm not just some like random person talking to you. My name's Kelsey Slay. So my last name really is Slay. I get this question every single day if it's real, and it is real. It's on my birth certificate. So my last name is Slay, but I'm from Georgia, a really small town in Georgia, about 2 hours from Atlanta. And so when I was in high school, I really loved art. I loved painting. So I decided when I went to college to go to art school, but I went with the intention of studying painting and fine art. I wasn't really interested in design, never touched Adobe software, never really knew anything about graphic design. And it was in our curriculum, we had to take one graphic design class to like anybody, any major, any focus had to take one design class. So I took graphic design one, but in that semester, I accidentally enrolled in graphic design one and two in the same semester, and no one from the register office caught it. And obviously, graphic design two has a prereq of one, and I had no understanding of like Adobe software at all. So I was like scrambling, so scared I was gonna fail because I had no understanding of design or anything like that. So I like to say I spent the whole semester at YouTube University learning Adobe software through and through, teaching myself design because I was like, I cannot fail. Like I'm one of those people that was like, I will not fail. I have to carry through this. So I ended up passing with A's in both, and I ended up really, really loving design in the process because I spent a whole semester just like consumed with it. So that kind of led me to changing my focus to graphic design and kind of, I still painted, but I was more focused in design. And I felt like design was a little bit more secure, at least for me. I was like, companies need designers and things like that. So that eventually led me getting a student job at my college. And I worked there for about a year to get some, experience underneath my belt. To eventually that role led to a full-time job. So they opened up the student job to a full-time job. So then I ended up being a graphic designer for my college full-time for about 3 years. And this was at the college's print shop. So I worked a lot in print design. I learned a lot. It wasn't the most glamorous creative job in the world, but it taught me so much. Looking back, I'm like very grateful. But during the time, I was like, I want to do fun things. I'm tired of like all the boring college stuff, doing those things like that. So that taught me a ton to eventually, like a few years in, I was able to leave and get a job at an agency. And during all this time, I was a freelancer. So I can't, like I said, I came from a very small town. So word of mouth spread pretty quick. So I was working with a ton of different local nonprofits and different places to partner with people and kind of get my name out there. So once I got a few agency jobs underneath my belt, I was a freelancer, eventually thinking that I would pursue freelancing full time. And as far as like my background in social media, I was a consumer of social media, especially I got addicted to TikTok in the quarantine. So I love social media, like always, I like grew up with Instagram, different things like that. And it kind of led in 2022. At this point, I was working remote as a web designer, and I decided to start a TikTok page. I didn't know when I started this TikTok page, it would completely change my life on any shape or form. The TikTok page that I started, I went in thinking like I'm just gonna kind of make content around design, around art history, around things that I like. I'm not really going to like pursue numbers or algorithms. Like I said, I had no background in social media, I had no idea anything about how to grow on social media. Like I had a design Instagram where I would post work and ghost it for like months on end. So I had like no understanding of algorithms or how to grow. And I didn't really go into TikTok and video creation as a way to like grow, or I never thought anything would come of just being on social media. I thought it was just like a fun place to have fun. So in the first 2 weeks of kind of posting consistently to TikTok, I was able to grow my account to 10K. I had a few videos like take off out of nowhere, and I kind of was like very shocked by it. Like maybe I'm good at this video thing. Maybe I'm like, this is fun. Like maybe this can lead to something, even if it was just like small things, like small brand partnerships or things like that. So kind of after getting a lot of good feedback from different things I was posting, I was like, I think I'm going to try to pursue this. So I worked my normal remote job from like 9 to 5, and then I would spend from like 5 to 9 just kind of making content and just things that I liked. And it was mostly just like graphic design humor, graphic design and art history, and then it was also like design tips and tutorials. So eventually, TikTok kind of became this huge outlet for me. It was a way for me to express myself. And like I said, I came from a very small town in Georgia, so the creative community was not huge. And I think also when you go to art school, you're so connected with this creative community in art school, and your professors and everybody are really pushing you. And it's kind of hard when you leave college and like you don't really have that anymore. So I spent a lot of time on social media kind of making online friends to share my work with, talk to them about different things. But as I kept posting, my confidence grew a lot. When I first started posting, I was really scared to like show my authentic self or like show my face, because we all know like TikTok and different places there's like a lot of hate. So I was kind of like hiding behind my computer a little bit, but then I kind of started kind of finding more confidence, and the more I started showing up authentically, the more my page started to grow. So around June of 2022, I think at this point I had grown my account to like 29K, almost 30K. I was working my job as a web designer, and I got a message on LinkedIn from a worldwide director at Adobe, and I really thought I was getting scammed. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, who is messaging me from Adobe? Like no one from Adobe is like looking at anything that I'm doing. Like what's going on? And I definitely stalked my now boss, because it was my boss who messaged me asking me, saying that he stumbled upon my TikTok page and looked over a lot of my content, and he had an opening on his team and he would be really interested in me applying for the job. So after religiously stalking him through and through on multiple platforms and making sure he was legit, I decided to interview with him and just see where it would go. When I first started interviewing with Adobe, I was like, oh, this seems like kind of fun. Like I had never thought that I could work at Adobe. Not that it was like not a possibility. It's like Adobe to me seemed like a company. Like didn't really seem like people work there, even though there are people who work there. And like I never thought I would get a job there. But as I started interviewing with my boss and interviewing with other people on the team and hearing more about my job that I have now, I was like very invested after the first few interviews. Like, okay, yeah, I really, really want to pursue something like this, which led to me being very anxious for like 2 to 3 weeks during the interview process. I was like so anxious all day, every day. Was like stalking my LinkedIn, seeing if I was going to get a message about a second interview or anything like that, to eventually landing the job. So I ended up getting the job, and I've been with Adobe for about a year now. I just hit my 1 year, and I've been able to funnel in and focus on my social media accounts, which is part of my job, which is content creation. And I've been able to grow my TikTok to 138K, my Instagram to 48K. So kind of bringing in about 200K followers in the last year of growth, which has been amazing. Adobe's given me plenty of opportunities to speak at creative conferences across the United States, which is awesome. I've been to cities that I guess I never thought I would be, coming from a really small town in Georgia. I never really thought I would be traveling around the USA. I feel like I live in the airport sometimes with my job, which I love. And it's been an amazing opportunity. And like going back to the beginning, my intentions in starting a social media or a TikTok page was just for fun. Like I never knew that TikTok would completely change the direction of my life, and where it's led me now, to being partnered with some of the other big brands in the design industry, and kind of just having a ton of design community surrounding me, online and in the creative space. And That's like a really great story, but I always have like, want to relate back. Like, how does this relate back to you? And so I'm always pushing students, especially young next gen designers, to put their work out on social media for a variety of reasons, not just so like, you get a job or anything like that, but the importance of like creative community is one of the main reasons I push for students to get on social media. Like I said, you're in a very creative space in college. In my college years, like even though they were very stressful, were some of my most like creatively charged years of just being surrounded by so many amazing students that were pushing out work that inspired me. My professors inspired me, and you're constantly getting set all these deadlines, all these projects. So it's just full of creativity. And when you leave school, it can be a really hard transition to leave and not really have that every single day, and kind of push yourself to make projects outside of your working job, or even just like, keeping up with your creative friends. Like I said, a lot of my creative friends after school, we all kind of moved away because there wasn't a lot of creative opportunity in that city. So I love social media for creating a community space for yourself to constantly push yourself, to make friends in the industry, even follow some of the bigger design community leaders. I mean, I've learned so much from social media. And I mean, like I said, I taught myself a lot from YouTube, but I've learned so much from social media. As you leave school, the growth and the knowledge never stops. Like you have to keep growing and keeping up with the industry. And so by being on social media and having that creative community, I feel like it really helps you grow as a designer. Another reason I push students to get on social media is putting yourself out there is crucial, and you never know who could be watching. I never knew Adobe was watching my TikTok page. And honestly, I was a little stressed when my boss was like, I've seen your TikTok, because my TikTok was so casual and fun and it wasn't like professional. I was like, oh my gosh, like what does he see me post? But you never know who's watching. And I can tell you for sure, Adobe is watching, especially as I worked at Adobe. There's been a ton of opportunities. Like I just worked on a creative like swag project, and they asked me to find an illustrator to do the project, and I found the illustrator from Instagram. So people at Adobe, and even myself at other companies, are always looking to partner with creative people, and I would never been able to partner with that illustrator to create t-shirts and posters and different things for Adobe that we now take on tour with us and we take to our creative events, if he had never just posted his work on social media. And he didn't even show his face. He just has a page where he posts his work. Your work definitely deserves to be seen, and no one's going to know how amazing of a creative you are if you're just, designing at home at 3 a.m. and you never post your work. Another reason I push students to get on Instagram or TikTok or any form of social media is kind of staying in the now. The creative industry is constantly changing. I mean, we've seen the industry change in the last 2 years, and it's absolutely crazy to think about how much this industry is just growing, and also how much it's changing. And I think sometimes when we get in these jobs outside of design school that maybe are more corporate, or they're more, not as creatively charged, it's a really great way to stay in the now of what's going on, different things happening in the design industry, to keep growing yourself and keep growing. And I think a lot of things too is like, as creatives, we got into this field because we were inspired and we want to inspire others. And I think when it comes to social media, it's like the perfect way to showcase your work to inspire other people. Like I said, in art school, like we're sharing our work. Maybe we get opportunities to share our works in galleries in school, or we share our work with our classmates. And you constantly have this like kind of circle of inspiration, of getting inspiration, creating work that inspires. And I think social media is a really good way outside of art school to kind of keep that momentum going. Um, Another thing is, when it comes to social media, I think I had to realize that I was so scared of being perceived as like cringe for starting, or like having a page or expressing something online and having people look at it. But if I had let that fear stop me, I would have never been able to be where I'm at right now. That fear is just something that's going to be there until you just overcome it and just post it and learn to not care. And I get asked a lot too about like hate comments, or how do you deal with people who they don't agree with you, or maybe they're mean to you. And eventually you kind of just get so desensitized to it, you don't really care. It's like one of those things of like, you can't let those people or that your own fear stop you, because if I had done that, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in now. And that leads me to my last point is, like I said, your work deserves to be seen, your personality deserves to be seen. And I would also encourage you guys to, if you do post authentically, because when I went into my TikTok page, I never had this idea of being a super polished person or being something that I wasn't. I went in just wanting to have fun. And I think that was probably one of the greatest reasons why I grew on TikTok, is because I didn't go in saying like, I want to hit this number, I want to achieve this, end goal, I want to get this much engagement. It was more of just an expression for myself, just to have an outlet and to like kind of create this creative community online. And like I had no expectations. Like I never knew that it would go and grow the way it did. And that's something that when I interviewed with Adobe, my boss pointed out that he loved that about my page, that I was a real person. And I like to have fun and I was authentically myself. So I think that's, in a world, in an industry where it can be pretty saturated, that's your greatest power, is your own authenticity, your own personality, your own style. And I think that's one of the biggest things when I push people to grow on social media or even just post something, is to always show up authentically yourselves. So that's kind of my spiel. I don't like lecturing at people too long, but I'm very open for questions about anything related to the talk or anything outside of that, even about my job or just Adobe in general. So we can go into Q&A if you guys are cool.
Oh, Amy, you raised your hand. You can go ahead and just fire away.
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you for sharing everything about your background. It was really interesting. Do you have any recommendations as somebody who hasn't had any social media experience? I guess, how do I start? Or like, what would should I start on Instagram, TikTok? Like, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I would definitely start in the page that you feel the most comfortable with. Like me, I had like a design Instagram that I would post to periodically because I was so comfortable with Instagram, because I mean we've had Instagram for a long time now. But I never really like TikTok was a platform that I really loved. I like grew to love it in 2020 and the pandemic. I was probably addicted to it too much because we were all stuck in our house. But it was kind of like, I love this platform and I don't want to just kind of consume on this platform anymore. I want to like contribute and like make something. So I think it really just depends on, I don't think one is better than the other. I think it's where you feel the most aligned, or where you feel like the most not passionate, but also just kind of like you like posting there. Like me, I never really wanted to get on Twitter when I first started posting. Like I didn't really like Twitter. So it's like I wouldn't post there. So I would definitely recommend posting to the page you feel the most aligned with, or the one that you feel excited to post to. And another thing, as far as like beginning steps, I think that like the biggest thing is just starting. And I know that's so cliche to say, but the more that you have this long list of to-dos you need to do before you start, like the time is going to pass either way. So if you just start and you just better your content as you go, it's better to just start than wait 6 months to get the perfect camera or get the perfect lighting setup, or maybe you need 6 months to plan content. I think it's just better just to go ahead and start and grow as you go. Because I think anybody who's in the content creation space knows that they look at their first few videos and they're like, what was going on? The video is blurry, like the light's too bright, or it's just not how it is now. I mean, I definitely had that experience of like, yeah, maybe I should go archive some of these videos. Like they're not the best. They're not as good as the ones I do now. So I think just starting is kind of the biggest thing. Like you having a long, different like, I mean, my whole page, I just in the last 6 months have gotten a camera to film. So I filmed almost all my content on my iPhone for the first 2 years, and I grew my page just with an iPhone. And if I had looked at other creators who had these like crispy, beautiful like camera videos and been like, oh, I have to save and get a camera, like I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So I think it's just a matter of starting, and like, once you start growing and once you start making investments, like, oh, I want to, get a real camera now. I want to, maybe pay for some better lights, or I want to kind of change my setup. And you can invest in that then when you feel like there's time for an upgrade.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Minty, you have a question?
Yes. Thanks for your story, and I actually following one of you. I'm actually a fan of yours. I follow your account, and I would like to ask whether like for the content right now I have an account, but my account does not like have a content for like a design. I would like to ask like whether you started from like a brand new account, or like you started it up with like a design content on your own, like a brand new account for that. Because actually right now I actually have an account for like the content, but it's not like a design content. Should I create a new one, or should I just start from where I am right now? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I always recommend starting a new account, just because when it comes to growing on social media, it's kind of one of those things where you kind of have to niche down a little bit. And I think by starting a new account, like for me personally, when I decided, hey, I've been doing well on TikTok, I want to get back on Instagram, and I kind of want to start pursuing Instagram and see if like maybe Instagram is a place to post some of my content, some of my work. I started a brand new Instagram because my Instagram account had kind of been dead for a long time. I hadn't posted there for like well over a year. And also like it had gone through a lot of changes, that account, because it originally started as a art account where I painted a lot. And then I moved to kind of design. So my audience was kind of confused, I think, with that kind of shift. So I think starting brand new and starting on a clean slate and establishing like the content you are going to make and the direction and niche you're going to have is probably the best way to actually grow and find the right audience. Because when I had my old account and I had, people who'd been following me for a long time, but some of them weren't active anymore. Also, I think some of them had followed me when I was a painter and I was just painting. So it's kind of like you have this divided audience that kind of followed you in one section. And then, you have another audience that's like kind of, seeing your new stuff. I think just starting over from scratch is probably the best way to grow, so that you're not really having that conflicted audience. Because I think some people have broader niches, which my niche is kind of just design in general. It's not really niche to specific things in design. It's just kind of like graphic design in general. But I think, if I was to post a video of me painting, it probably would not do that well, just because a lot of my audience is very much only following me for graphic design.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Of course, yeah.
Maren, you have a question?
Yeah, so it sounds like you experienced a lot of organic growth, but I was wondering if you had any tips for growth?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, my growth was completely organic. I never really did the promo or paid promotion because I had just like, I can't prove this, but I had heard a lot, like if you pay, like you're not going to hit your target audience. So I was always like scared of like paid promo or pay for views. So it was all organic. I would say the biggest thing, especially it depends on the platform you're interested in, but TikTok, I think it's about quantity. TikTok is a lot less polished than Instagram. It's a lot more casual. So I think just kind of like posting consistently is the biggest thing of just posting. Like I was posting, I think I was posting like 2 times a day for, during the week, which seemed like a lot. But when you're taking a TikTok that's 15 seconds or something just fun or just something that doesn't really take a lot of effort, it's not too much effort because it doesn't have to be so cleaned and polished like somewhere like Instagram. So I think posting enough quantity at the beginning until you kind of get an audience, because now I don't post as often because I have an audience. So now I post like maybe twice a week. Sometimes I take breaks from posting because we all know the world of content creation can get really stressful and you just need to turn your phone off for a little bit. So I definitely think it's the quantity at the beginning, and also like I said, finding that niche and sticking to that niche, because I see a lot of students or new people on creating an account and maybe they're making design videos, but then they're also posting videos of like their dog or maybe their home decor project, and it's like kind of confusing your audiences. And you want people when they come to your page to see consistency in what you're posting, because that's what's going to make them want to follow you. Is, oh, Kelsey has this page and there's like 12 design videos, so obviously she posts design content, so I'm just going to go ahead and follow her because I know that she's going to just keep posting design content. People get really weird about you having all sorts of niches, which kind of sucks because I like posting about a lot of things, so I just have a separate account to like have fun with just like, I don't know, a video of my cat or like a home decor project. So I think it's just niching down in the quantity is the most important at the beginning.
Okay. Thanks, Kelsey.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, really quick before we go to you, Angie, I wanted to support a point that you said earlier, Kelsey, about like, you never know who's gonna be like looking at things. Like personally, that's happened to me because like I do like on my Instagram a lot of like drawings and prints and stuff like that of actors and athletes and stuff, and you never know. Like I mean, the most mind-blowing one was like I did a print when Peacemaker came out, the John Cena show. I did a print of Peacemaker, John Cena, and then like I went to sleep and I woke up and then I saw that John Cena had liked it. And
oh my gosh, that's
just like mind-blowing. Like you never know who's gonna see these things or how they get on their radar, or who like repost them, and then you get like traffic that spills over from those people's stuff. So
yeah. And even adding to that, like I think, I've been able to grow a lot of my platforms. So I've been able to make friends with a lot of like these kind of people in the space that have like a bigger audience, and just kind of talking to them. Sometimes it's crazy to hear that like, you know, I even know a guy who does a lot of like t-shirt designs and stuff like that. And he ended up partnering, like he got a gig with Metallica to do some of their just like shirts. And it's like Metallica would have never found him if he wasn't on Instagram. Like it's just crazy to think that like, you know, you could create the best work in the world, but if no one ever sees it, like, you know, you might not get the opportunity.
Plus, also really quick, like you can get so hyped up about like this is the one that people will
Yeah,
see, and then it's like a ghost town, and then the one that you have no
always.
expectations of, like there's like one that I just did on a off the cuff, and like that one got like hundreds of likes. So like every once in a
Yeah,
while it's like, and I'm just like, I don't get it. That one I wasn't really
yeah.
caring about.
That still gets on my nerves so much. I put like the most effort into video and it flops. And then I just do like a funny one and it's like good. I'm like, you know what? I'm logging out for a little bit. Yeah.
Anyways, Angie, you have a question?
Um, yes, I mean, it was kind of going along about what you guys are talking about, like Kelsey. So thank you for sharing. I mean, this is helpful.
Yeah.
What was your first TikTok? Like, what was it about? Like, just content of like, how do you start? Like, what do you talk
Yeah.
about? Like, what do you like? How do you?
So
Like,
I
I don't.
started like I said, I had a very like authentic fun. That was like my whole thing was like just having fun. And so it was more of like, you know, I consume TikTok more than I probably should, and it, even more so back then. So it's like there was all these trends happening on TikTok, and it was like I would find trends that I liked and then relate it back to my niche of design. So that was kind of some of my first few videos was just like funny, and some of them were just like I don't know, like POV of like different design trends, because I love like art history. I like really love art history, and so like that kind of led to me like loving design history. And so I knew I when I was in like design TikTok, I saw like not a lot of people were talking about design history, and it's like one of my favorite things to talk about. So I would like kind of make videos around that, and then I would also make videos around just like I think it wasn't until a little bit later that I started making like tutorial videos, like tips and tricks. Like I said, like my college was a pretty small college, so I felt like, you know, I had to teach myself a lot. Like in design, the design program was pretty new, and like I definitely learned a lot, but I definitely taught myself a lot. So I learned a lot of like tips and tricks along the way through like my agency jobs, and so I would kind of share some of those of like, I can't believe I didn't know this tip when I was in design school. Here's a tip that I learned outside of design school, and just kind of finding like different niches. I feel like most of my pillars were funny, like funny, authentic, my personality content. Some of them were like tips and tricks, and then others were just like design humor was another one, was like a really big one that I talked about a lot.
Does anybody else have the next question? You can drop it in the chat if you don't want to unmute yourself. Don't everybody ask at once.
Oh, can I? Oh, sorry. I just wanted to. What is on TikTok? How can I find you? Is it under your name? Or
Oh yeah, all my here, I'll drop it in the chat. All I try to keep it uniformed, but all of my handles are usually just Kelsey Slay Design. So that's with TikTok and Instagram. TikTok and Instagram are kind of where I hang out the most. I just got on Twitter, which I don't know if I like that much, but I'm trying giving Twitter a try for just a little bit. Um, and I also do Discord a lot. So I have a graphic design Discord where I kind of get to talk to people every day, just like see work, and we kind of give feedback and just different things like that. It's just like a fun space to, you know, get your work crit and different things like that, just to kind of like keep growing. There's a lot of new designers, but then there's also like a ton of experienced designers, which is really cool. I'm like, man, y'all have more experience than me. So this is awesome. Like just kind of a really cool space.
Well, we have a question in the chat, actually a couple. First one, how has your experience been working at Adobe?
It's been great. And a non like by obviously like I represent Adobe, but like for real, it's been the best job I've had. I think, you know, I had freelanced since the moment I learned Adobe and like knew some about design, passed a few classes, I started freelancing for like a lot of like I said, nonprofits, some friends and family. So I was very used to client work, and also my job at my college was very much like a client work environment, because we would have different departments on campus come to me, talk to me about what they wanted, and then I would create what they wanted. And then same with agency jobs. I, you know, worked as a ton of different things. I feel like my design job was like a design job, but then it was like you do everything. So by the time Adobe found me, and I was still freelancing at the time, I was like very much kind of ready to exit this client space. It's not that I didn't like it. I think I was just kind of burnt out on like clients ruining my projects. They start giving their feedback and it's like the design started so beautifully and then it kind of ended not so beautifully. So Adobe, it's been great. It's definitely, a lot of my job involves social media, but a lot of my job involves traveling and demoing software. So I travel a lot, which is really cool because it's like I get inserted in these little cities and I get to pretend I live there for a week and then I get to go back to my world. So it's like really cool to kind of get like a taste of all these cities, and I feel like I've gotten to eat a lot of good food and seen a lot of good sights, which is cool. So I think another thing too is like I have been able to go to so many creative conferences and be able to like meet designers. And so it's really cool to be in person again. Like, we had COVID, so it's like very locked down. And then the last year we kind of started traveling a little bit more. So that's like really cool. I feel like, in the quarantine, I was extrovert, but then I grew into this like homebody introvert. And so my job has definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone and getting back. And like, I can remember the extrovert in me. I'm like, wow, I remember like I used to love to be in these like huge spaces with people and talking to people. So it's been really amazing. And I think the biggest thing too is I work with some of the most inspiring people. Like I love my boss and I love my team. We all have our own specialties in design and like our own niches. So it's really cool to be able to work on a team because I was so used to working on the team where I was the only creative person. Like I was the one designer, so when you work on a team with all sorts of designers and all sorts of creative people, it's like it definitely makes me want to step up my game all the time. I'm like, oh, they're so good. I need to like get better. So it's very inspiring. Yeah.
All right. Well, Demetria has dropped a couple of really good ones in the chat. One of them actually is kind of a two-parter, I think. And it was actually a question I was going to ask you. It's about the game within the game of social media.
Oh, yeah.
Do you care about the time of day or the day of the week to post? And also, do you have advice about how many times to post a week for Instagram? And then we'll get your follow-up question after that.
Okay, yeah, I would say so. It depends. I think when you're first starting to grow, you need to post as often as you can. Once you kind of start getting like some sort of like community or followers, it's like you can be a little bit more relaxed. Definitely Instagram is more tricky, I think, than TikTok. But I post at the same time every time I post. So I typically post at like 11:30 in the morning because that just kind of works in my schedule. I've posted at different times and I don't really feel like it ever really has affected it, but just in my mental head, I'm like, oh, I posted at the same time. So if it flops, I can't blame it on the time. And then as far as like how many times to post, when I was like first trying to grow my Instagram, I was posting like 3 times a week. So I would post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday was when I would try to post, and I would definitely try to do reels, which I kind of got to a point where I was so scared to post my TikTok content to Instagram because I felt like they were such different platforms and my TikTok was so fun and Instagram was so like polished. But then I kind of just was like, I have to get over that. I don't care anymore. Like if the Instagram girls don't like it, like I don't care. Like I'm just gonna post it and just see. And then I was able to find an audience that like really did like that kind of content. So I think Reels especially is a really great way to get yourself out there and get more of an audience and like eyes on you. I think Instagram is obviously pushing Reels more. So I would recommend really posting like 3 times a week if you can. Definitely posting 1 to 2 Reels within those 3 posts. And then just find a time that works for you. I try to post at the same time. I don't really try to post on the same days because, like I said, sometimes my schedule can get crazy with traveling. So it's just like, I'll post it, when I can. So it's like sometimes the days are different. I definitely try to post during the week, though. I don't really post on the weekends because I find it doesn't do as well on the weekends. But that's kind of just like a general overview.
All right. And then Demetria's last question before we go to Cadence. Do you have advice about the kind of content to share on Instagram? Are videos better than still shots? I think you kind of maybe touched on that a second.
Yeah, I would say like still shots I think are really great for like your work. If you're showcasing, like if you're a photographer or you're, a designer, like I definitely post still shots and still get a lot of traction that way. Especially if I post like a slideshow, like not just one. So I think those do really well if you do that. But I really do feel like reels are the best way to go about growing. Even if you could just somehow find a way to put your work and still images just in a video through a sound. I feel like Instagram, like if you post like a still photo, it only really shows it to your followers. But if you post a reel, I feel like it always shows it to more people. So that's been my own experience. I didn't really start growing on Instagram until I started consistently posting reels. And I was just taking my TikTok content and like dumping it on reels and being like, hopefully it does good. I don't care. I'm just gonna try it. And it's done really well. So I think it's just a matter of like making sure you're posting to reels, but then also if you don't really want to like film a video, you could just kind of take your work and adjust it to make it into a video, if that makes any sense.
All right, and staying on the topic of reels, is posting reels on Instagram more likely to help your page grow faster? I've seen new accounts gain a big following from consistently posting reels compared to accounts which typically only post photos, don't gain much recognition.
Yeah, I would say reels, especially like when I've juggled the game of Instagram algorithm and trying to like study my analytics to like try to figure it out. When I've posted still images, I don't really gain a lot of followers. Sometimes I will, but sometimes it's like it's so much harder to get that still post has to do so well to land on like an explore page, or you have to get enough free shares so people kind of like engaging with it. So reels is really the way to go to grow, because almost every single reel I post, there's some reels I post, they don't even hit my followers, they just hit outside people. So they're reaching a new audience. And that kind of will get you the followers, because it's people be like, oh, I don't really know this person, I don't follow this person, and then the reels pop up, so then you can kind of follow through and that person will end up following you. Versus like if you're posting a still post and you're only hitting your followers, you're not really hitting any new people, you're less likely to get a new follower because it's not really hitting a new audience. Whereas a reel, you have a better opportunity of hitting a new audience if you're using like trending sounds, or the reel does really well with your following. Usually if it does really well with your following, then it gets sent to a broader audience. So I definitely recommend reels. Like I said, I didn't start getting traction on my account until I started posting to reels.
Well, while we wait for our next question to roll in, what are your thoughts on, like, for here in our office in career development, we use something like Later for scheduling. What were your thoughts on like scheduling posts out versus just?
Yeah, I've seen some people schedule. Me personally, I don't really schedule, but I've seen people schedule. I know with video it's a little tricky. I don't know if Later does video or it can post to reels. Does it? I know most of like the TikTok and Instagram reels is like limited currently, which I think it's like gonna be fixed because obviously the world is like so short form video content now. I've used some with clients before, like when I would do social media management like Later. And I know Adobe Express has like a scheduler, but I feel like I like am always the last minute poster. Like I'm like exporting it and being like, oh my gosh, I have to post. Like I'm not as good at planning, I think, as far as like I'm gonna sit down and make sure all my like design work is loaded into Later, so it'll automatically post for me. Another thing too is like I think with Instagram and any social media platform, it's a lot about the engagement you put in is the engagement you're going to get out. So I spend a lot of time like engaging with my design community or new designers on my feed every single day. Because I just like seeing work. I like meeting new designers. So I definitely follow and like keep up and like engage on Instagram and see new work. And same with TikTok. So I kind of like to do that before I post anyway. So I like to engage a lot before I post, and I like to engage after I post. So I found with like scheduling, sometimes I'll forget and then I'm not really engaging or I'm doing something. And I think if it works for you, that's good. I don't think it limits the engagement. But for me, I'm such a last minute poster. Like I'm always exporting the design and like, oh my gosh, I have 5 minutes to write this caption kind of person. So I never really use them.
Does anybody else have a question they would like to ask?
I accidentally asked the question of Kareen instead of to you. So my question is, reels are scary to me. And I have not touched one in the whole time that I've been on it. Maybe I've touched it once, but did you use YouTube to like figure out how to do it? I know that my daughter uses Canva. I don't know, like it just seems like a whole nother world to me. Do you have advice about how to get started doing reels?
Reels? Yeah. So when it comes to reels, I do a lot in app. So like with TikTok especially, and same with Instagram, they have like the SEO and like all these like social media terms that I like knew nothing about until I started posting, is like writing your captions in app so that like the algorithm reads like, oh, she wrote graphic designer with TikTok text in app. So we notice in it to designers. And that's like a really big part of growing on any social media platform, I think, especially Instagram and TikTok. So I film a lot in app. Now that I have a camera, I'm filming a lot out of app. But I just recently kind of stepped into that world. So I would just kind of film my Instagram reels in the Instagram app. So you can edit it in the app. And same with TikTok. I don't think it's wrong if you edit outside the app, because I've seen people grow even if they do like the really not, they typeset and they do it probably in like Premiere and like it's super fancy and like, but from what I have experienced and what I've been told, especially from people who even have more followers than me on TikTok and Instagram, is kind of writing those captions out in your app, in the TikTok app and the Instagram app, is what's going to help it reach more people and it's going to reach the right audience. So that's why I've kind of stuck to editing in those apps, and adding the sound in the app, and also like making sure my captions are pretty detailed on what the video is about, so it's reaching the right audience. So I definitely recommend, especially the beginning, because you're going to be really overwhelmed trying to figure out how to edit into their software, even like Premiere. Like I work at Adobe, I like Premiere, but I'm like, this is so extra and stressful sometimes. So I just like to do it in app, especially at the beginning. Like now I have a camera. It's a little bit different, but you can still upload videos outside if you don't film them in app to the TikTok app or the Instagram app and edit them accordingly. Yeah, so that's what I would recommend, especially at the beginning.
All right, we have our next question from Yudi. Different streets in social media. Would you recommend YouTube, and what kind of content would work best with YouTube?
Yeah, so I've never stepped into the world of YouTube. I was like kind of scared. I'm like still kind of nervous about YouTube just because I know it's very like long form. There is YouTube Shorts, which I have been telling myself I need to start posting to, because it's just about, repurposing my content there. I have had design friends grow a lot in the YouTube space, and get a significant amount of subscribers. And most of their video content is very long form, like day in the life, or it's like a really, I feel like YouTube is a little bit different of a universe. Like you have to have a nice camera. It has to be a nice setup, for people to interact with it, especially the long form. Because people like, I don't have the attention span. No one has the attention span. And most of the time, if you're going to YouTube, you're going to like learn something or you want it on in the background. So that's kind of how that long format gets consumed. So I would definitely like, if you feel the most aligned with YouTube, like definitely try it. I don't think I have practical tips and tricks on how to grow because I have no like standing on YouTube, even though I've been told like I probably should get on it. But I definitely have seen designers get on it and really, really like it over every other platform. Especially the ones who really like like long form talking. Like I have a friend that talks a lot about, different album cover designs, and he also designs album covers. So he goes through those processes. And I mean, he's been able to grow. It's taken him a lot longer, I think, to grow because YouTube is such a different world. But I definitely think if you feel more aligned with YouTube, like definitely give it a shot. And if you are looking to grow, I would definitely follow or subscribe to like maybe 5 or so of the top designers in that space and just kind of see what they're doing. Don't copy what they're doing, but find your voice and kind of like things that they're doing. What's working for them? Why is it working? How can you adjust that to your own voice?
While we wait for our next question to come in, I will say something. I don't know what your thoughts on this, Kelsey, but a long time ago when I did production stuff for like tech companies and things,
Yeah.
So you go to school and you're in classes, right? And then you have the freedom to do whatever because of the syllabus to an extent. Then you get done with school, you start working with clients. Creativity is like less than like 2%. It's like I want this Pantone, I want this, that, and the other. And so you're basically just paint by numbers doing what they tell you to do, and your creativity is gonna go down.
Yeah.
Found that having like social media stuff, like and even just like low stakes, like posting some drawings or prints, definitely reinvigorates that stuff because you don't really get to do too much of that in the office, and outside of it, you got to find some avenue to really do it.
Yeah, that's exactly why I even got on social media in the first place, because I was feeling that way. I was like, wait, like I thought when I was gonna be a designer, like I was gonna be like, I don't know, the best creative person in the team and like constantly like, and don't get me wrong, like there's some projects you do, you're like, this is great. But I had found myself working with agencies and working with clients that just did that. They just say like what they want. I mean, one of my last clients like drew their like a logo they wanted on like a napkin and was like, you should do this. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for. I wanted it to be fun. So I think definitely like pushing yourself and like doing those passion projects outside of the like workspace is like helps you not hate design or hate like why you got into it in the first place, because clients can like, they definitely can ruin a project. You can start so good and then it can end horribly and you're like, what happened? Like, I don't even want to put my name on this.
I will say too, like a follow-up, like I get students who ask me those, like, how do you do that? And it is the most terribly generic answer that you're ever going to hear. But if you really want to do that stuff, you're gonna make time for it.
Yeah,
right?
you can prioritize
I
it.
remember at the job that I had where it was like that. Our like lead designer guy, he had 2 kids, and I was like, dude, how do you do this? I had no kids at the time.
Yeah.
And now I have 1 kid, and I'm like, I still got to find time to make it
Yeah.
happen. So it's like,
Yeah.
if you want to do these things, you will make time for it to happen somehow, even though that's not a good answer.
Yeah, and it's a lot to figure out too, because like when you're in school, like I noticed like you have this tight deadline, and I had this like I can't fail, and then when I got out of school, I was like kind of not really setting deadlines, like, oh, I'm gonna do that project, and then I was like, I need someone like yelling at me, telling me like this has to be done by this deadline, turn it in, and I was like, I have to set that up for myself. So it's a lot of like self-starting, which can be really hard at the beginning, but just like finding ways to like do that and be like, I don't know, having your friends keep you. I tell my friends like, yeah, I'm gonna have this project done in like 2 weeks, and then I feel like this anticipation, like I got to get on it. I can't just like not do it.
Well, we're starting to come into the home stretch. Does anybody have any final questions? Anything that you are desperately wanting to know about social media or Adobe? Again, don't all ask at once. Okay, well, if that's all the questions we have, we will start to pull this thing into the station. Again, if you want a copy of this, you can email me, and I can share the video with you. Thank you very much to Kelsey for taking time out of your day to talk with us. I think you're like 2 hours ahead of us.
Yeah, so it's not too early for me. I'm like, it's like almost 2, so I'm good.
Oh, okay, cool. So we didn't cut in your lunchtime. That's great.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, thanks guys.
yeah, stay in touch with Kelsey. Go on LinkedIn, go on social media, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I hope you guys had a good time. This was enjoyable and informative for you all.
Thanks guys.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Thanks.